this blueprint report. Dick Cheney, who then became vice president, more likely president. Donald Rumsfeld, defense secretary. Paul Wolfowitz, deputy defense secretary with more power than him in truth. You usually find the real powers with the deputy, not quite as up front as the others. Also behind the project for the new American century and its connecting organization, the American Enterprise Institute, Michael Ledeen, infamously involved in far-right organizations in Italy at the time of the notorious P2 Freemasonry Lodge, when its head, the Mussolini fascist Licio Gelli, was exposed and eventually jailed for controlling the society of Italy, its government, its business, its banking, including the Vatican Bank, through the P2 Freemasonry Lodge that connected into Henry Kissinger, another associate of Michael Ledeen. Richard Pearl, he's on the Defense Policy Board of the Pentagon, who advises the Pentagon on policy. What do you advise, Richard? I advise to invade Iraq. Oh! American Enterprise Institute, known as the godfather of the neocons, the neoconservatives. I think I have another phrase for them. Woolsey, who is the head of, or was the head of the CIA in the 90s. He's on the Defense Policy Board with him, deciding Pentagon policy. He's a big mate of Shalabi, the guy that they want to be involved in the new government of Iraq. Douglas Feith, who is actually in a major policy-making position in the Pentagon and decides who goes on the Pentagon Policy Board. Jeb Bush, the brother of George Bush, governor for Florida at the time of the scammed Florida vote, and William Crystal, chairman of the New American Century, or the Project for the New American Century organization that produced this report, and he is a pundit who goes on to fix news in America to project and promote this policy. So what did this report say? September 2000. The United States has for decades sought to play a more permanent role in Gulf regional security. While the unresolved conflict with Iraq provides the immediate justification, the need for a substantial American force presence in the Gulf transcends the issue of the regime of Saddam Hussein. So the immediate justification to go into the Middle East and start this going is Saddam Hussein and Iraq. This is before they even came to power. It calls for a blueprint for maintaining global U.S. preeminence and shaping the international security order in line with America's principles and interests. In other words, the Illuminati, who are using America as the vehicle. This American grand strategy, it said, must be advanced as far into the future as possible, and the U.S. must fight and decisively win multiple, simultaneous, major theater wars as a core mission. That's what they're planning to do. In September 2000, it calls the American Armed Forces the cavalry on the new American frontier. And it says that key allies like the United Kingdom are the most effective and efficient means of exercising American global leadership. Exactly what they've done since they came to power. Used Britain and Blair to do that. It says that peacekeeping missions demand American political leadership rather than that of the United Nations, precisely what they've done. And, hey, we have the axis of evil. It highlights North Korea, Syria, Iran, and Libya as dangerous regimes and says their existence justifies the creation of a worldwide command and control system, World Army. The very nations that have been mentioned since. The axis of evil speech and that phrase was written for Bush by David Frum of the American Enterprise Institute. Same organization. It also says it spotlights China for regime change, says it's time for the presence of American forces in Southeast Asia. This could lead to American and Allied power providing the spur to the process of democratization in China. You imagine what that would mean. And what did Paul Wolfowitz announce this week? More troops going into Asia, American troops. We're actually seeing this unfold in front of our eyes. In the biggest secret, 1998, the plan is to engineer events, real and staged, that will create enormous fear in the countdown to 2012. This includes a plan to start a third world war, either by stimulating the Muslim world into a holy war against the West, or by using China to cause global conflict, maybe both. How did I know that? Because people on the inside of this told me that's what the game was. Many of them over the years of the 90s. What else does it say? Because what it says is what they're planning to do. It calls for the creation of US space forces to dominate space and total control of cyberspace to prevent their enemies, i.e. anyone that's challenging the agenda, using the internet. It talks, are we talking Nazis or fascism or what? It talks of developing biological weapons that can target specific genotypes. This may transform biological warfare from the realm of terror to a politically useful tool. What else did it say? It said that this project, this blueprint of conquest, would necessarily be slow to unfold unless America had a new Pearl Harbor. In its words, their process of transformation is likely to be a long one, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor. This crowd who wrote that came to power. They're in the Pentagon and the government now. In January, officially, 2001. By September, what had happened? What George Bush called at the time, our Pearl Harbor. The force behind the war on terrorism was the force that created the justification for it. The Fourth Reich is not coming, it's fricking here. So, look at the countries around the Caspian Sea, which is only part of it. It's about conquest for other reasons. Iraq. Iran, are they talking about going next? Oh, this. We have 710 good reasons to be involved in the affairs of the Middle East. Excuse me, Mr. President. Oh, thank you. Oil. But these empires are not really America and Britain. Well, first of all, let me emphasize this. When I talk about America and Britain, I ain't talking about the British and the Americans. I mean, for God's sake, on the streets of this city, we had 1 million people against that war in one day. They ain't involved in this. I'm talking about the force controlling the American and the British governments. There are vast numbers of people in America who are totally sickened by what's happening, as much as we are in vast numbers here. And these countries are vehicles for this force. They're just being used as vehicles. They couldn't give a toss about America or Britain, really. Go walk about, Georgie. Read your speech. Now this is what's really happening. When that soldier put that that American flag on that statue of Saddam Hussein and told to get it down quick, they'll realize what's happening. That's what it's about, conquest. Oh no, it's liberation of Iraqis. General Cluster and Captain Bluster come together again because we have the next conquest. There's the Blair Bush summit. That's kind of put him down, George. So here we go. Missiles, tanks, troops, planes, bombs, ships, guns. A reason. Hey, what's that reason? Oh, we'll work it out. Don't worry. We'll have a discussion. Well, if they listen to this guy, the reason was not justified. This is Scott Ritter, the chief UN weapons inspector in Iraq for 5 years, quoted by John Pilger in the Guardian newspaper. By 1998, the chemical weapons infrastructure had been completely dismantled or destroyed by UNSCOM, the UN inspection team, or by Iraq in compliance with our mandate. The biological weapons program was gone, all major facilities eliminated, the nuclear weapons program was completely eliminated, the long-range ballistic missile program was completely eliminated. If I had to quantify Iraq's threat, it is zero. Chief weapons inspector in Iraq for 5 years for the UN. Oh, but we need to attack Iraq. Reason. Weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. Hey, I better talk quick because they could hit us in 45 minutes. Do you remember that one? So, hey, don't question it. Hey, weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. Mantra, mantra, mantra. Repeat, 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 repeat. Believe, believe, believe. There we go. There's the connection between Iraq and Al-Qaeda. Clear link. There's the Blair again with the weapons of mass destruction's dossier, and there's the Americans looking at it. You know the deal. Actually, they did find some weapons of mass destruction. Here's one I made earlier. That can hit the west coast of America, mate. And they did find one of those mobile weapons laboratories. This is one, you know. It may look like a London bus to you. These are Iraqis. Ooh, can't trust them. Can't trust them. But anyway, never mind if we believe it, we're going anyway. Now, people say, and it's true, hey, you can't say that they never had chemical weapons, and this blueprint report. Dick Cheney, who then became vice president, more likely president. Donald Rumsfeld, defense secretary. Paul Wolfowitz, deputy defense secretary with more power than him in truth. You usually find the real powers with the deputy, not quite as up front as the others. Also behind the Prodini fascist Licio Gelli was exposed and eventually jailed for controlling the society of Italy, its government, its business, its banking, including the Vatican Bank, through the P2 Freemasonry Lodge that connected into Henry Kissinger, another associate of Michael Ledeen. Richard Pearl, he's on the Defense Policy Board of the Pentagon, who advises the Pentagon on policy. What do you advise, Richard? I advise to invade Iraq. Oh! American Enterprise Institute, known as the godfather of the neocons, the neoconservatives, Icke for the New American Century and its connecting organization, the American Enterprise Institute. Michael Ledeen, infamously involved in far-right organizations in Italy, at the time of the notorious P2 Freemasonry Lodge, when its head, the Mussolini, I have another phrase for them, Woolsey, who is the head of, or was the head of the CIA in the 90s. He's on the Defense Policy Board with him, deciding Pentagon policy.